Hi there, this is Andrew bringing you another Keyforge deck review. This one is going to be of Just Southpaw Penelope, which is a Logos Saurian Deist deck. Yes, you heard it right. This is a Worlds Collide deck. This is actually the one that Ali opened on stream, or on video, when we did our Worlds Collide unboxing. And I ended up keeping it. I really like it. I let her have the other one. It seems pretty good, and I'm pretty excited about it. So far, against other Worlds Collide decks, it has done very well, and but it plays kind of funny, a little bit counterintuitively, and I am really looking forward to getting in some reps with this against Coda and AOA decks as well, but it just hasn't quite happened yet. So anyway, this is Just Southpaw Penelope. Alright, so we'll start out with the Deist, and probably one of my least favorite cards here, Binding Irons. Give your opponent 3 chains. Yeah, I don't love that kind of effect. Okay, so let's go next to Buzzle. So Buzzle is an interesting new creature. It's a 3-power beast with Skirmish, and it has a play and fight ability that says you may purge one of Buzzle's neighbors. If you do, ready Buzzle. So just to be clear about that, let's imagine Binding Irons as a creature here. When I put Buzzle into play, I can purge the neighbor to ready it. Why would you want to do that? Well, it makes it fast. It makes it pretty fast. So I think it works out pretty nicely. And there's some weird incentives to manipulate your battle line here, but I ended up in situations where I really wanted to move fast. I need to get this or that done, and purging a card just didn't seem like such a high penalty. So it worked out very well. And I think so. Purging in like deck building games, or remove from the game effects, are one of the strongest effects out there. Being able to selectively purge your own cards is a really powerful effect. So yeah, I'm excited to see this in play and see how it works out. I think it's actually going to be, these types of effects are going to be very good. Being able to purge your own stuff, and there's some good purge your opponent stuff too, but we'll see that. Okay, next up we have Dendrix. We have 2 of these in here. So Dendrix is kind of like the new Toxin. It's a 5-power demon, and it has a fight ability that says your opponent discards a random card from their hand. And if you've watched a lot of my videos before, you know I'm not a giant fan of these your opponent discards a random card from their hand abilities. So you won't be shocked if I say I am not totally opposed to doing something like use these as Buzzle fodder to get the Buzzle just doing more work. Yeah, so it's fine, and sometimes you can knock a combo out of their hand, but just in general, and if you do it multiple times per turn, that can be pretty good. But just in general, I just am not a huge fan of knocking cards out of my opponent's hand. It's not my favorite way to play. Okay, Eterom, this one is interesting. It's a 4-power demon. When it reaps, you destroy a creature of the house with the most creatures in play. And you can kind of see now where maybe the Buzzle effect starts to come in handy, right? Maybe you have 3 Saurian creatures on the board, and your opponent has two of something, and you, by purging a Saurian creature to the Buzzle, you can then reap with Eterom and end up destroying the thing you want to, where you would have had to destroy one of your own creatures anyway, but now you get to destroy an opponent's instead, and you purged yours, and you made Buzzle ready. So there's some interesting use cases for the Buzzle around this. Anyway, in Eterom, getting to reap and destroy a creature if you're destroying one of your opponents is quite a good effect. We have 2 copies of Malison. This one is a really nice effect. It's a 5-power demon. After it fights, you may move an enemy creature anywhere in its controller's battle line, so you get that battle line manipulation. And importantly, this is not saying the creature you fought, right? It's any creature. So after Malison survives a fight, you can fight, a bad penny, take 1 damage, and then you move an enemy creature anywhere in its controller's battle line. And then, if it's on a flank, it captures one from its own side. So yeah, it's in some ways it's like more powerful than Dodger, right? Because you can it's a slower steal effect. You're getting the Mars-like steal effect, but you're also getting battle line manipulation out of it. So I think it's a pretty interesting card. Misery Exploit. We saw this in Age of Ascension. By the way, notice this is the first... Oh no, Binding Irons we got in Age of Ascension as well. Yeah, but it's a lot of Worlds Collide cards so far. Fresh cards. So Misery Exploit gives you an amber for each damaged enemy creature. That's pretty cool. Potentially. Okay, Bornit's Touch. Gives you a bonus amber, and then you reveal the top 5 cards of a player's deck. Purge a card revealed this way. Shuffle the other revealed cards into their deck. So you get to look at 5 cards from your opponent's deck and purge one of them. Or you can do this to your own deck as well. But this is really, really good anti-combo tech. And this deck only has one of these. I am kind of excited to see decks that have, you know, maybe like 3 of these. And I think some of the combo decks from previous sets are going to really suffer as a result of that. I think it's great. It's really, really good. Yeah, so that's a cool card. You can do it to your own as well. Okay, that brings us to Eye on the Fringes, and I've heard people struggle to say this. There's an apostrophe there that means there's a letter missing. I think it has to mean eye, and it's kind of like I think it's actually like a Tolkien reference. But this is a 1-power imp. Well, anyway, it's kind of a poetic thing to spell eye that way. So there's a 1-power imp with elusive, and it says. So this is intentionally worded in a funny way, but it says during your turn, after you discard a discard from your hand, you may purge a discard from a discard pile if you do steal one. And notice there's no like you can reap, and then you can use this as many times as you have cards in your hand. So, for example, I had a game where a player was doing some. They had a Quizzle Stone, which limits how many creatures people can get on the board in a turn. And I had been struggling. They were getting ahead, and I managed to get. Spoiler alert: this deck has 3 Fates in it. I managed to get 3 Fates, Eye on the Fringes, and 4 other discards in my hand, and used the 3 Fates to destroy the creatures that were on the board. Put Eye on the Fringes down, and then just purged the other 4 cards out of my hand. I discarded them, purged them, and stole 4 amber, which is fantastic. Now, if you have this with other effects that have you discard cards, like I don't remember if Sloppy Lab Work is back. I'm going to guess that it is. But you know, if you have other effects that let you discard cards, which there are some in Logos, for example, then you can do this even on non-D's turns. Yeah, so now of course it's only 1 power. It's elusive, but it's likely to die. But you can have some pretty powerful turns getting value out of this. Alright, so I did mention we have 3 Fates, which gives you a bonus amber and has you destroy the 3 most powerful creatures. And then Harvest Time is another really interesting card here. So it's interesting because you can use it in different ways. When you play it, you choose a trait and you purge each card with that trait. So each card with that trait could mean upgrade, artifact, or creature, right? Anything that's on the board. And each player gains an amber for each card they controlled that was purged this way. So you might use this as board control. Maybe your opponent has 3, demons on the board, and they're really in your way. It's a bad situation, and so you use this to get them out of the way. And you have to give your opponent gets 3 amber as a result, but you purge those cards; they're gone. So that can be a really good way to use it. Or maybe toward the end of the game, you use this to spice up your own amber. You purge like 6 of your own creatures and gain 6 amber, and that can be pretty powerful. So it's very situational what the best thing to do with this is, and you as the player have control over it. So this is a great card. Okay, let's get into the Logos. We'll start with now again just to highlight. I think it's pretty cool. Out of 12 D's cards, only 3 of them were pre-Worlds Collide cards. So we're around pre-Worlds Collide, so pretty good hit rate there. Okay, Daughter gives you is a 2-power cyborg scientist with elusive. Obviously, this is a play off of Mother because it says during your draw a card step, refill your hand to 1 additional card. It is the smaller version. It's only 2 power, but it has elusive. So I think it's a great card. I like seeing it. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Would I rather have this or Mother? I don't know. I think they're both great cards. So, not sad about this. Okay, we have 2 Abscesses, and Abscess is a 5-power mutant scientist that says after an enemy creature is destroyed fighting Abscess, ward Abscess, and draw a card. So this is very similar to Brain Eater in that it gives you the draw a card ability after creature's destroyed. Abscess actually is a little better, I think, because it has more longevity. Obviously, if your opponent has a 5-power creature, the Brain Eater you'll get one shot, one draw with it, whereas Abscess will just die. But once the trick is to target a small creature for the first fight, you get that ward on there, and then for subsequent fights you can fight whatever you want, and you'll burn the ward, but if you destroy the creature you'll get a new ward and draw a card. So you can get great value out of the Abscess. I really like it. Information Exchange is an interesting new action. It says steal 1. If your opponent stole Amber from you on their previous turn, you steal 2 instead. That's great. It's very good against shadows, obviously. But yeah, it's a great effect there. I like it. Sanitation Engineer is a 4-power cyborg scientist with hazardous 1. After it reaps, you discard a card from your hand, and that can pair really nicely with that Eye on the Fringes. If you discard a discard, then you can purge a discard from your discard pile from a discard pile. I didn't even realize Eye on the Fringes is extra good if you're playing against Dees, because you can purge your opponent's Dees cards if you prefer. Yeah, anyway, it pairs nicely, and it's just a nice effect. Tau Vapors. This is one of the cards. This is a really nice card. That's all I can say. I'm excited about it. Draw 2 cards, archive a card. No Amber for that. But I think the draw 2 card, compare it to Lab Work, which just says archive a card. Drawing 2 cards means you probably get something. You have a good chance you'll get something else you can play, and then you get to archive a card. So I love it. I think it's fantastic. I would be happy to have multiple of these in the deck. We have 2 copies of Thorium Plasmate, which gains you a bonus Amber and then has you move an enemy creature anywhere in its controller's battle line and deal 2 damage to that creature for each of its neighbors that shares a house with it. And this is in a theme of especially Logos cards, but there's others as well in the new set that care about being next to neighbors of the same house. And this one lets you punish a little bit for that. Well, you get to move it around, so it's battle line manipulation, and then you get to punish your opponent for having many creatures of the same house. And it gives you an Amber, so win-win. Okay, Wormhole Technician is a 3-power cyborg scientist. After you reap with it, you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it is a Logos card, you play it, otherwise archive it. That is so good, because, it's really good. It is better than Wild Wormhole, because it says, if it's not, then you archive it. So it's great. Oh, well, Wild Wormhole just plays. I'm wrong about that. What am I thinking? Chaos Portal. Because if you can't play it, you just get to archive it, which helps you move through your deck faster. It's great, and I love the flavor on here, the art. Pretty clearly a Portal reference. And yeah, just a great card. I love it. I got a Legacy Titan Mechanic in here. Titan Mechanic does not belong in Worlds Collide, but here it is. It's a 6-power cyborg scientist that says while it's on a flank, each key costs -1. Cool stuff. Mini Groupthink Tank is a 3-power robot and experiment with 2 armor. And after you play, fight, or reap with Mini Groupthink Tank, you deal 8 damage to a creature that shares a house with 2 of its neighbors. Now, interestingly, you need to be careful not to confuse this with Groupthink Tank, which is slightly different. Mini Groupthink Tank can only hit 1 creature per, trigger, and to be a valid target, a creature has to be between 2 cards of its same house. So that doesn't happen that often. This deck actually has some board control, so it's a little easier to have to do this to yourself. You have to be careful. But yeah, it is quite it's a pretty powerful effect. And I am just careful how I'm putting creatures on the board to avoid having to hit myself that way. Although, because it's a creature, if my opponent does have a valid target, I can just hit that and leave my own alone. Then we have last Logos card. This is a fun one. Reassembling Automaton. It's a 3-power robot experiment. When it's destroyed, if you have any other creatures in play, instead of destroying Reassembling Automaton, fully heal it, exhaust it, and move it to a flank. Important here, this is clarified in the rules, but because that word instead, when this triggers, Reassembling Automaton is not considered to have been destroyed. So cards that would gain an amber from it being destroyed don't. Any like purge effects that want it to be destroyed don't happen because it was not destroyed. It was fully healed, exhausted, and moved to a flank instead. Very, very important wording there. Okay. On to the Dinos, the Saurians. We have Broododon Auxiliary. This is just a nice board control / protection mechanism here. It's a 6-power beast with taunt and hazardous 2. Very nice. Odoak the Patrician is a 5-power dinosaur politician who, after being played, captures 1. And while Odoak the Patrician has amber on it, your amber can't be stolen. That is pretty cool. Your amber just can't be stolen. Really strong. Phalanx Strike gives you an amber, and then you choose a creature, you deal 1 damage to it for each friendly creature, and you may exalt a friendly creature to repeat the preceding effect. So this is our first example so far in this deck review of the new Exalt mechanic, which has you grab an amber from the common supply and put it onto a creature. So it's the equivalent, it's the functional equivalent of saying your opponent gains an amber, you capture an amber. Generally speaking, this is dangerous for you, right? Because if that creature dies, your opponent's going to get that amber. There's some stuff in this deck that mitigates that, so we'll see it, but it's quite it can be quite a powerful effect. Okay, let's come back to that. Prefectus Ludo is a 5-power dinosaur politician that says each other friendly creature gains destroyed, move each amber on this creature to the common supply. Well, this is a little bit of protection from that Exalt, as well as capture. So if Prefectus Ludo is out, Odoak has a captured amber on it, and Odoak gets destroyed, the amber from Odoak is going to go to the common supply instead of going back to my opponent. That is very good. So the Ludo serves as sort of a mitigation for the risks of some of the other Saurian effects. If I can, I probably want to protect this. It's pretty big. 5 power is nice, but I probably want to protect it with the Broododon Auxiliary, just so my opponent can't wipe it out, because it is such a powerful benefit. Okay, Retor Galim is a 3-power dinosaur philosopher. After you play it, your opponent's keys cost +3 during their next turn. After it reaps, you can exalt it to get that effect again. You may exalt Retor Gleam. If you do, your opponent's keys cost +3 during their next turn. Really good effect for holding off your opponent's forges. It also, if you do exalt it when you do the reap, that can hurt you, but sometimes it's the right trade-off. Okay, next we have, and this is an interesting card because we have 3 copies of it, Senator Shreks. This is a 4-power dinosaur politician with 1 armor. And it has the text, you may spend amber on Senator Shreks as if it were in your pool. And when you play or reap with Senator Shreks, you may exalt Senator Shreks. That can be pretty cool. If your opponent does not have creatures on the board, getting to play this and have an amber go on it right away that you can then spend to forge can be a pretty powerful effect. Now, I will typically want to spend that amber off the Senator Shreks when I forge, even though it can't be stolen, right, because it's on there, but typically I'd rather spend it because my opponent could kill it and then they'd get it. So I usually do prefer to spend that when I can, but it can be quite powerful. I mean, that's potentially 3 amber, and then if you, let's assume you have complete board control, and you reap with these, you're gaining 3, and you can exalt them for 3 that you get to spend, and that's powerful. Okay. Drakofreako is a 4-powered dinosaur politician that after it reaps, you can exalt Drakofreako, and if you do, choose a house and enrage each creature of that house. That can be a little dangerous because you're exalting it, so and now the opponent is forced to fight with that house you picked. So what do you think they're going to fight? Well, they're probably going to fight your stuff that has amber on it. But it can be good to, if they have powerful reap effects or they just have a lot of creatures and you want to force them to fight into you, it can be pretty good. Maybe it's worth giving them an amber. Pterodactyl is a 12-power beast that enters play stunned. And there's a little bit of a theme of this with some of the Saurian creatures. They have a couple at least. There's also Gargantodon. But anyway, Pterodactyl enters play stunned, and it only deals 4 damage when fighting. But before it fights, you deal 4 damage to each neighbor of the creature it's fighting. So it still does 12 damage. It's just sprayed out across the 3 creatures, which is a pretty powerful effect. Favor of Rex gives you a bonus amber and has you trigger the play effect of a creature as if you had just played it. That is pretty good. And then potentially, if we look here, let's just look really quick through our play effects. The Center Shricks can be good ones to trigger, potentially. The Red or Gleam one can be pretty good. You could trigger Odoak. I actually did that in a game once to get back to where my opponent would not be able to steal. The mini groupthink tank might be a good target for it. And you could potentially do it with Buzzle, although I don't think that's really as useful. And sometimes your opponent will have strong play effects, and you can trigger those too, because it just says a creature, it doesn't say a friendly creature. So that can give you access to your opponent's play effects, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and then the last card here is I think a pretty strong one, and I've been liking it more the more I've played with it. So this is Imperial Forge. It gives you a bonus amber, and then it says forge a key at +8 current cost, reduced by 1 amber for each amber on friendly creatures. Well, okay, so on the face of it, that's obviously it's a key cheat. +8 is pretty big. However, if you have 3 Senator Shrixes on the board that each have 1 Exalt on them, maybe you have an Odoak that has 1 captured, maybe you have let's just say you have those 4. Let's say you have those 4. Well, at that point, it's +4 current cost, which that's equivalent to Night Forge. Okay, that's not so bad. Then you think about the fact that you're able to spend the ones off of Shrix, so you're getting those out of harm's way from being destroyed. You're spending them instead of having your opponent potentially take them. That's pretty good. It also means, let's say these are each here, I can reap and exalt right then, which is, and know that I can play the Imperial Forge and spend that, and the Exalt will give me 3 to spend, as well as reducing the cost by 3. You add into that like a Favor of Rex to boost another of them once, or something like a Phalanx Strike, which you can put the Exalt token on one of the Senator Shrixes, and suddenly you are, reducing your Forge cost quite substantially, and also getting to spend that amber and make sure that it doesn't get lost to your opponent or even to the common pool if you have Ludo in play. So yeah, it works pretty well, and these things, they get such board control between all these creatures that I find I'm able to get into situations where I can win with an Imperial Forge. I've had at least a couple games that went to that, but it took a while for me to get the playstyle of this deck down to the point where that happened. But once I kind of figured it out, it started doing that more and getting me wins with the Imperial Forge, which is pretty cool. So yeah, this is just Southpaw Penelope. I think the Imperial Forge with the 3 Shrixes is pretty awesome. Eye on the Fringes is just great, and especially with creatures that I'm just not that thrilled about, it's very good. And the logo spread is good. I'm not sure how, in terms of like score level, what I would call this deck. It's definitely gotten better as I've played it more, and I think it might be like a B plus or A. But again, I haven't taken it against any Coda yet, so I need to get that done and see how it goes. But anyway, I am super excited about the new set, more so since the spoilers, and I want to get my hands on more of them, on more of these Worlds Collide decks, and play with them some more. I've been limited by supply, so hope that you're excited as well, and I hope that you will get out and forge some keys.